In the summer of 1885, a 9-year-old boy named Joseph Meister was viciously mauled by a rabid dog in a small French village. His body was covered in 14 deep bite wounds, dripping with the deadly saliva of a creature possessed by madness. At that time in history, a bite from a mad animal was not just an injury, it was an absolute, inescapable death sentence. Everyone knew what would happen next. Weeks of terrifying agony, violent throat spasms, an unnatural fear of water, and utter insanity. Desperate to save her child, Joseph's mother took him to Paris to find a scientist who was secretly experimenting with something never tested on humans before. That man was Louis Pasteur, and in his hands lay a microscopic vaccine that could either cure the boy or kill him instantly. To understand why this moment shook the world, we must travel back thousands of years to the origins of humanity's most feared viral monster. Long before modern science understood viruses, ancient civilizations recorded a horror that seemed to transform peaceful animals into mindless demons. The Mesopotamian Eshnunna Code from 1930 BCE contained strict laws regarding owners of aggressive dogs that bit citizens. If a dog showed signs of madness and the owner failed to lock it up, any resulting death meant a heavy financial penalty under the law. In ancient Greece and Rome, doctors recognized that the bite of a mad dog was uniquely deadly compared to any other wild animal wound. The Roman scholar Celsus was the first to give this horrific symptom its permanent name: hydrophobia, the fear of water. He observed that victims, despite burning with extreme thirst, suffered violent throat convulsions whenever water approached their lips. Desperate to cure victims, ancient healers turned to painful and gruesome methods that often killed patients faster than the virus itself. They held red-hot iron rods directly against the fresh bite wounds, burning the flesh in a hopeless effort to destroy the invisible poison. Others threw victims repeatedly into rivers and oceans, believing that forcing them to swim would somehow break the curse of hydrophobia. None of it worked. Once the symptoms appeared, the mortality rate remained a brutal, unflinching 100%. As the Middle Ages swept across Europe, rabies became tied to superstitions, witchcraft, and terrifying dark folklore. People believed that victims were bitten not by ordinary animals, but by shape-shifting monsters disguised in the shadows of the night. The frightening symptoms, foaming at the mouth, hyperaggression, hallucinations, and aversion to water, laid the foundations for werewolf legends. Similarly, the intense sensitivity to sunlight and the compulsion to bite others fed directly into early European stories of vampires. Communities were gripped by widespread panic whenever a stray dog entered a town square, showing early signs of sickness. Town officials instituted brutal extermination campaigns, slaughtering thousands of stray dogs and cats in frantic attempts to halt outbreaks. Yet, despite centuries of terror, no one understood what was actually causing the disease. They were fighting an invisible phantom enemy. By the 19th century, as industrialization crowded millions into cities, rabies outbreaks became even more frequent and deadlier. Cities enforced strict quarantine measures, forcing dog owners to strap heavy metal muzzles onto their pets before stepping outside. Quarantine signs were nailed to public postboards, warning citizens that any loose animal would be destroyed on sight. Medical authorities were utterly powerless. Hospitals could only lock infected patients in isolated, padded rooms to prevent them from attacking staff. It was during this dark era of medical helplessness that a brilliant French chemist turned his full attention towards solving the rabies mystery. Louis Pasteur was already famous for discovering germ theory and saving France's wine and silk industries from biological ruin. But tackling rabies was a far more dangerous undertaking, one that terrified even his closest scientific colleagues. Pasteur knew that standard microscopes of his era were completely unable to see the rabies agent because it was a virus, far smaller than bacteria. Unable to isolate the germ under a lens, Pasteur made a bold, revolutionary assumption: the pathogen attacked the central nervous system. He reasoned that the highest concentration of the deadly agent must reside inside the brain and spinal tissue of infected hosts. Working with rabid animals was an absolute nightmare. A single accidental scratch or drop of saliva could mean a painful death for Pasteur or his assistants. In one legendary hair-raising incident, Pasteur personally used a glass pipette to suck saliva directly from the mouth of a rabid bulldog. He held the deadly liquid inches from his face, protected by nothing more than a steady hand and sheer scientific determination. Pasteur realized that to create a cure, he had to figure out a way to weaken the deadly virus without destroying its immunizing properties. He extracted infected spinal tissue from rabbits and suspended them in dry, sterile glass jars to dry out over varying periods of time. The longer the tissue dried in air, the less lethal the virus inside became. Pasteur had successfully found a way to tame the monster. He developed a treatment protocol involving a series of injections, starting with the most weakened tissue and ending with the most potent. By gradually building up immunity step by step, the host's body learned to defeat the full-strength virus before it could reach the brain. Pasteur tested his vaccine on dozens of dogs. Time after time, vaccinated dogs survived bites from rabid animals without showing any symptoms. The animal tests were an unqualified success, but Pasteur faced a massive ethical hurdle. He had never tested the vaccine on a human being. Pasteur was not a licensed medical physician, and injecting an experimental live virus derivative into a person carried enormous legal and moral risks. If the human trial failed and the patient died, Pasteur's entire career would be destroyed, and he could be charged with manslaughter. He hesitated for months, refusing to take the leap into human testing until fate brought young Joseph Meister to his laboratory door. It was July 6, 1885. The child was facing guaranteed death from 14 rabid bites. Pasteur knew he had no time left to wait. Consulting with 2 medical doctors, Pasteur made the nerve-wracking decision to begin the experimental 13-dose treatment course. That evening, Joseph Meister received his very first injection of attenuated rabbit spinal tissue, marking the dawn of modern immunology. Over the next 10 days, the young boy was given 12 more injections, each containing progressively stronger and fresher virus strains. Pasteur spent sleepless nights pacing his hallway, terrified that the final injection would inadvertently induce the very disease he was trying to prevent. The final dose contained fully virulent, fully active rabies virus, a dose that would guarantee painful death to an unvaccinated subject. Weeks passed in agonizing tension. Pasteur monitored the child's condition daily, watching for any sign of fever, muscle spasms, or delirium. But the madness never came. Joseph Meister remained healthy, fully recovered from his wounds, and completely immune to rabies. News of the miracle swept across the globe like wildfire. The world realized that human medical science had finally conquered its most lethal virus. Hundreds of people bitten by rabid animals began traveling from all corners of the world to Paris, desperate to receive Pasteur's life-saving treatment. 19 peasants from Russia, viciously mauled by a rabid wolf in the snowy wilderness, arrived in Paris weeks after their attack. Despite the long delay, Pasteur treated them all. 16 of the 19 Russian peasants survived, solidifying the vaccine's international triumph. International donations poured in, funding the creation of the world-famous Pasteur Institute in 1887, dedicated to epidemic research. In a touching twist of fate, Joseph Meister grew up to become the head gatekeeper of the Pasteur Institute, devoting his life to the place that saved him. Decades later, during World War II, when invading Nazi soldiers demanded access to Pasteur's sacred crypt, Meister refused to open the doors. Refusing to betray the memory of the scientist who had saved his life, Meister remained true to his convictions until his final moments at the gates he had guarded for decades. Pasteur's breakthrough completely revolutionized medicine, proving that vaccines could be engineered in laboratories for diseases non-bacterial in nature. Yet, despite Pasteur's genius, the rabies virus was far from erased from the natural world. The pathogen continued to thrive quietly in wildlife reservoirs across every continent except Antarctica. Bats, raccoons, skunks, and wild foxes became major hidden vectors, capable of transmitting the virus through minor unseen scratches. In the mid-20th century, scientists made another terrifying discovery. Rabies could lie dormant in the human body far longer than expected. While most cases manifest within 1 to 3 months, documented instances showed incubation periods stretching up to a full year or more. During this silent incubation window, the virus travels stealthily along the peripheral nerves, completely undetected by the immune system, moving inch by inch at a speed of up to 100 millimeters per day. Its ultimate destination is always the brain. Once the rabies virus crosses the blood-brain barrier and symptoms begin, post-exposure vaccines become completely useless. The pathogen hijacking the brain triggers terrifying physiological changes designed for one purpose: spreading itself to new hosts. It destroys the brain's ability to swallow, causing excruciating throat spasms, while simultaneously flooding the salivary glands with pure viral particles. The victim's extreme terror of water, hydrophobia, is not mental madness, but a biological trick by the virus to prevent its host from washing away saliva. By keeping saliva concentrated with active virus, any bite or scratch becomes a highly efficient vector for infection. Modern medicine considered symptomatic rabies 100% fatal, until a medical miracle occurred in Wisconsin in 2004. A teenager named Gina Giese was bitten by a bat inside a church, but did not receive post-exposure prophylaxis. Weeks later, she developed full-blown rabies symptoms and was rushed to the Children's Hospital of Wisconsin in critical condition. Dr. Rodney Willoughby proposed a radical, untried experimental procedure that would come to be known as the Milwaukee Protocol. Realizing that rabies kills by temporarily shutting down brain functions rather than causing permanent structural destruction, he made a daring decision. Doctors placed Gina into a medically induced coma using powerful sedatives to protect her brain from viral overstimulation. While her brain was effectively put to sleep, her immune system was given crucial time to produce its own antibodies to fight off the infection. After 7 days in a coma, blood tests showed her body had successfully developed high levels of rabies antibodies. Doctors slowly brought Gina out of the coma. She became the first unvaccinated person in history to survive symptomatic rabies. Although the Milwaukee Protocol offered a glimmer of hope, subsequent attempts to replicate it worldwide achieved mixed and often disappointing results. The survival rate for symptomatic rabies remains agonizingly low, making prevention the absolute primary defense line for global health organizations. Today, rabies still claims over 59,000 human lives every year, primarily in developing regions across Asia and Africa. Over 95% of these human deaths are caused by bites from infected domestic dogs in communities lacking animal vaccination access. To fight back, international health campaigns have turned to massive oral rabies vaccination programs for wild animal populations. Planes drop millions of vaccine-laced bait packets over forests across Europe and North America, successfully eliminating rabies in wild foxes. Mass domestic canine vaccination drives have virtually eradicated human rabies cases in Western Europe, Latin America, and North America. Modern post-exposure prophylaxis is now fast, painless, and highly effective when administered immediately after a suspected bite. The terrifying multi-injection ordeal into the stomach is long gone, replaced by simple shots in the upper arm over a few weeks. Global health organizations have set an ambitious target: 0 human rabies deaths by the year 2030 through widespread animal immunization. From ancient Babylonian laws to Louis Pasteur's desperate gamble, humanity's war against rabies spans thousands of turbulent years. It transformed our understanding of viral biology and gave birth to modern vaccines that now save millions of lives every single day. What was once an inescapable death sentence from a single bite is now a preventable remnant of our dark medical past. The story of rabies proves that even the most terrifying invisible monsters can be brought down by science, courage, and persistence. If this deep dive into history fascinated you, subscribe for more incredible stories behind the medical discoveries that shaped our world. To fully grasp the terrifying nature of rabies, we must peer beneath the surface and examine the shape of the virus itself. Unlike spherical viruses like influenza, the rabies Lyssa virus possesses a distinct bullet-like structure under electron visualization. Encased in a protective lipid membrane studded with glycoprotein spikes, this design allows it to attach effortlessly to nerve cells. Once inside the wound, the virus remains local for a brief period before locking onto nicotinic acetylcholine receptors at muscle junctions. From there, it enters the motor neurons, effectively hijacking the body's internal highway system to travel inward toward the spine. Because it travels exclusively within nerve fibers, the rabies virus completely avoids detection by immune cells circulating in the blood. This stealthy journey explains why an infected person feels completely healthy and shows 0 symptoms during the early incubation weeks. It is only when the virus breaches the central nervous system and floods the brainstem that the clinical nightmare rapidly unfolds. Early symptoms mirror a common flu: mild fever, headaches, fatigue, and a strange tingling sensation at the site of the original bite. Within days, the disease splits into one of 2 distinct neurological forms: furious rabies or paralytic rabies. Furious rabies accounts for 80% of human cases, characterized by extreme hyperactivity, agitation, confusion, and violent spasms. Even a gentle draft of air blown across the skin can trigger excruciating involuntary muscle contractions, a symptom known as aerophobia. Paralytic rabies, accounting for the remaining 20%, takes a quieter, more prolonged course as muscles gradually lose function. Starting from the bitten limb, paralysis slowly creeps inward toward the respiratory system, ultimately causing heart and lung failure. Because paralytic rabies is frequently misdiagnosed as other neurological conditions, many cases go completely unrecorded in rural regions. This diagnostic difficulty highlights why immediate action after any animal bite is the single most critical factor for survival. Medical experts emphasize that washing a wound thoroughly with soap and running water for 15 minutes dramatically reduces viral load. Soap destroys the virus's lipid envelope, effectively neutralizing a significant portion of viral particles before they bind to tissue. Following immediate cleansing, post-exposure prophylaxis combines modern rabies vaccines with rabies immune globulin for immediate protection. Rabies immune globulin provides ready-made antibodies directly at the bite site, bridging the gap while the body generates its own immune defense. Modern cell culture vaccines introduced in the 1970s replaced older duck embryo vaccines, eliminating harsh side effects entirely. These refined vaccines trigger a robust, long-lasting antibody response with virtually zero risk of serious neurological complications. Despite these scientific triumphs, rabies control in wildlife remains one of ecology's most complex ongoing logistical puzzles. In South America, vampire bats pose a unique challenge, feeding on livestock and occasionally transmitting rabies to humans in rural areas. Scientists developed topical vaccine gels applied to captured bats, which spread the vaccine across entire colonies through social grooming. This clever biological strategy allowed researchers to immunize thousands of wild bats without having to catch every individual animal. In India, home to over 1/3 of global rabies deaths, massive street dog sterilization and vaccination initiatives are underway. By targeting the magic 70% herd immunity threshold in dog populations, communities can break the transmission cycle permanently. Smartphone technology and GPS mapping now allow field teams to track street dog vaccinations in real time across sprawling urban centers. These modern technological tools are turning the tide against a disease that has haunted humanity since the dawn of recorded history. Cultural attitudes toward animals are also shifting, encouraging responsible pet ownership and compassionate stray population control. Children in high-risk rural areas are now taught basic animal behavior rules in school to prevent dangerous encounters with stray dogs. Simple guidelines like never approaching a sleeping dog, avoiding strange animals, and immediately reporting bites are saving countless lives. Meanwhile, medical researchers continue exploring cutting-edge mRNA technology to develop even faster, single-dose rabies vaccines. Next-generation monoclonal antibody therapies are also being created to replace expensive human immune globulin in low-income nations. These innovations promise to make post-exposure treatment affordable and accessible to every human being on Earth, regardless of wealth. The United Nations, World Health Organization, and Global Alliance for Rabies Control stand united under the 0 by 30 campaign. By combining dog vaccination, human post-exposure care, and public education, we are closer than ever to total global eradication. Every dog vaccinated and every bite victim treated brings us one step closer to closing the final chapter on this ancient virus. The story of rabies is a testament to the power of scientific inquiry over ancient fear and fatalistic superstition. It reminds us that when medical pioneers refuse to accept defeat, even the most formidable biological threats can be conquered. Today, we walk in a world far safer than the one our ancestors inhabited, shielded by the legacy of Louis Pasteur's courage. But vigilance remains essential. Reporting animal bites immediately and keeping household pets vaccinated are duties we all share. Spread awareness, educate your community, and ensure that no one around you falls victim to a preventable tragedy. Medical history is filled with remarkable stories of courage, innovation, and victories against diseases that once terrorized humanity. Understanding these historic battles gives us profound appreciation for the modern medicine we often take for granted today. As science continues to push back the boundaries of disease, The lessons learned from rabies remain as relevant today as ever. Thank you for taking this extraordinary journey back through time to explore one of medicine's greatest triumph stories. Like this video if you learned something new, and share it with others who love fascinating deep dives into history and science. Hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to join us for our next deep dive into history's most mysterious medical breakthroughs.